Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good, Rachel. How you doing?
Good, good. So I wanted to talk to you today about some events in your life and how they led you to this point and to be in this neighborhood and to own West Side Stories here.
Okay.
So I guess let's start with where are you from?
Sure. I grew up in West Seneca,
Okay.
which is a suburb 20 minutes south here.
Okay, nice.
10 minutes.
And you said you left and came back. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. When I graduated, I went to Buff State and did my undergrad and grad there. And I did my graduate work in higher education, student personnel. So I took a job in Florida at Jacksonville, and then kind of bounced from university to university. I went for a couple years in Florida, a couple years at Rhodes College in Memphis. Then I worked at CUNY Staten Island for a good 5, almost 6 years, and then I made my way back here.
Nice. And how did you decide to come back to Buffalo? Was it part of what your experience was like in those other places that drew you back here, or?
I think it was just being practical. We loved New York City. We were in a part of, because my wife worked in downtown Brooklyn and I worked in Staten Island, so we were in the Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which is right where the Verrazano Bridge joins Staten Island to Brooklyn, and we loved the community. We really were happy there. But once the kids came, it got really hard pushing a double stroller in the snow to go up and down the subway stairs, and I felt like we were paying this exorbitant premium to live in New York City and not enjoy the amenities of the city.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, what was it like moving back here with your family from the place that you sort of grew up in? What was it like seeing what had changed, you know?
That was kind of, and I don't know if, I think we had changed enough in coming back that I knew we were going to, I grew up in West Seneca, but having lived in Brooklyn, we knew we wanted to live in a walking community. So while there were little things that changed, businesses come and go, some of your friends have come and gone too. I think that when we were coming back, though, we really wanted to have a different lifestyle, and that's why we ended up coming here. We really wanted to find a walking community that was similar to Brooklyn, because we loved, even though there were some things we didn't love about Brooklyn that drew us away and back for me home. There were some things that we really wanted to keep, that being one of them.
Yeah, interesting. And so, did you come to the West Side immediately when you got back to
No,
Buffalo?
we shopped around for a while.
Okay.
Well, no, let me rephrase that. We found when we decided to move back, we moved back without jobs. We just both registered at temp agencies and said we're going. We'll figure it out when we get there. So we rented one of the cheapest places we could find, which was on the West Side. We were living actually on Albany Street, right, not a couple doors down from Marco's.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, we found it, and found a house that was pretty reasonable. So we did 1 year there, and then started to house shop. And when we were house shopping, we weren't necessarily committed to the West Side.
Okay.
We looked at a number of different neighborhoods.
Yeah. And what ultimately pulled you in here?
A couple things. Price. We bought our house for what most people spend on a car, and not even a good car. So I mean that's hard, and we loved the house. Proximity to Elmwood Village, we felt like was we wanted to be to have that walking community, and this definitely had that, as well as being able to be so close to Elmwood Village. And I guess the other thing too that sold us in this particular, we're a block away from the store, and what really sold us more than anything, I think, was the sense of the sense of investment that was happening in the neighborhood. Right when we bought, we looked at a number of houses, and Prish, the woman that owns the cafe on the corner, Sweetness 7, she had recently opened up, so this was the last house we looked at, and we immediately walked 1 block over and had coffee there. And then we saw the yoga studio was being built in the old bank building down here, and there's a developer that had bought the old Catholic school that was making that into apartments. And we kind of felt like the sense of the amount of private investment happening in this little community really made it feel like, while there's still some problems here, it was really having a sense of growth and renewal, and we thought that was a good bet for us financially, and to be a good bet to be a part of.
Yeah. And so what about your interest in owning a bookstore specifically? Was that something early on you knew you wanted to do? Was that something early in your... Oh, okay.
Not at all. Not at all. We stumbled into it.
Okay.
We quite literally stumbled into it. We'd been selling a little bit online. I mentioned we moved back without jobs, right? So I'd picked up part-time work at the casino. My wife had found out before I found full-time work, and my wife had done the same. And then anything for a little extra money. So we go thrift storing and we find some books that were worth something. So we'd go ahead and sell those online.
Yeah.
And that had, as our lives had stabilized and we gotten jobs, that had still been a part of our, revenue, and we kept that, and we're selling books regularly online. And my wife and a friend went to a Grant Ferry Association meeting here on the west side. It was like a social mixer, and started talking more about to some people about doing a brick and mortar operation, and got excited about it, and thought, give it a try.
So, I mean, the distance between like that idea and like getting excited about it and actually making it happen must have seemed huge at the time.
Yeah.
What was the process like making this happen?
And if I'm going to be honest, it's actually a surprisingly uncomfortable question, okay? Because we had a partner, and so this gets edited, right?
Wow. Okay. So it was a little bit complicated, but in the end, you had your place.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like, what was the what was the difference between that bookstore that you first opened and this bookstore now?
None, because like I said, we did all the work.
Right, but so what? How has it changed? How has it changed though since you opened?
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. A great deal. I think. And we've been here 4 years, and we've learned such a great deal about, I don't know, what'll sell, what people in the neighborhood want, even just what inventory, how to better source inventory. We opened it actually when we first opened. We nailed a bunch of boards together to put up shelves. We only went to that back orange wall, which is about probably a third of the space in the store, and we got it open within 2 weeks. We signed our lease was for July 1st, 4 years ago, and we had the store open on the 15th, so this way we could start. Continue to stock shelves, continue to work in the back, and build an inventory, but still get some revenue coming in on the space.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So I mean, when we first opened, it was almost a kind of an empty shell.
Right. It was just like get open, be in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Let people come in and find you.
Exactly. And start generating a little revenue. How long can you rent a space and not have revenue coming back on it,
Sure.
right?
And when was that again? What year was your open?
4 years. It was 2011.
2011. So July 2011
Yeah.
is when you opened. And how did things go at first? Did they go the way you expected them to go, or were people coming in and checking it out?
We actually had a bet about how long it would take for our first customer to show up, and on the day we opened, and there was actually somebody who had heard about us online that was waiting for me at the door.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Online where? Like, where were you?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah,
okay, so you guys had an online presence.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've loved about the neighborhood is there's so much, people want to see things happen on Grant Street and on the west side.
Yeah.
So for a small community bookstore,
Yeah.
there was actually a good deal of anticipation and people supportive, and they really wanted to help us.
Nice. Yeah, what's it like for you to be a part of this business community? Because that's, you said, what brought you to this place in the first place, even to live here. So, yeah, what is it like to be a part of that group of business owners in this area?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's part of the reason why we want to continue to grow it and stay.
Who is the business community in this area? That would be nice to.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, there's a small fraternity here on this block, and then it's a much larger community, right?
Of course.
So I work in the shop by myself. I have no colleagues.
Yeah.
But my colleagues are the woman who works in the shop next door, which was until a week ago Esther. Paul across the street that owns the carpeting store. Louise that owns the little Global Village, which is like a African market. Prish that owns the cafe. There's a number of us that on this block I would say have almost daily contact. The community itself though is much larger in terms of the Grant Street corridor, and there's a lot of people that have been coming to My wife and I are pretty involved with the Grand Ferry Association. They had that mixer that got us involved, and now we're pretty involved with the meetings there.
Oh, nice. So those are still going on.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they helped to plan the Taste and Diversity Festival, which has been great for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It brings a couple thousand people.
Interesting.
Yeah, actually we went to meet with a business association. That's one of the small business groups here. Who, when I sat down and told them our business plan for opening a small bookstore, kind of laughed at us and told us that was a bad idea. But 4 years later, here we are.
Oh, that's funny. There is something about this bookstore that's very like it feels really like natural, like organic, the way other forced spaces don't. Like it is the shape it is,
Yeah.
and like you have the inventory you have, but you have a kids section because you have kids, and like you have you talk to people in the neighborhood because you're around, and I think that's also a quality that I really like about this place.
4 years ago when we opened up and I didn't fill all the floor space, any book was a good book.
Right, you were just putting books on the
The
shelves.
shelf, because we had the shelf space and we
Yeah.
did not have the inventory when we first opened up.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
changed, and as you can see by the book fort that is built around us, right? I have gotten to the opposite problem where I have too many and I have to cull and be much more selective about what I'll take in trade.
Yeah, the book fort is very endearing, though.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
we try to even organize the book fort to some
Yeah.
degree, but it's
I
a
think
challenge.
Real book lovers recognize this space.
Yeah.
So, what are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading Call's book on the CIA in Afghanistan, right up to September 11th. So kind of the
Wow.
history of the CIA's relationship with Afghanistan.
Is that like a subversive book, or is it very like everyone already knows this, and I'm just giving you the full story?
A little bit of. It's kind of depressing, actually. It's a one of the because it's a survey over time going back to the Carter administration essentially, and one of the depressing things about it is if you follow politics at all. This is a good example of where it really didn't matter who was in office with each successive administration.
Right.
They all, particularly in this instance, handled it consistently
Very
poorly. That led to the outcome.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like watching us fail over and over and over again.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
It's this sustained neglect by everybody. So
Do you have people come in at all for like and ask you for unexpected kinds of books ever? Like, do you get requests for really obscure,
oh sure.
strange, yeah, and
Yeah, I know.
like, so do you try to? Are you interested in those requests? Are you like, I should get some more occult, or I don't know.
Oh, actually, that's a good seller for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, talk about that.
Yeah, books on the. Well, and I should say we don't have tomes of Aleister Crowley or any of those kind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, collectible kinds of things. But occultism in general is magic and the occult is a big seller.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
so
noticed you have a lot.
I scoop up any of that I find.
Okay. And is it like you just have a regular influx of people looking for those kinds of books?
Oh,
or-
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
do you see you have regulars who come back for those things?
Weekly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
And that's changed over time too.
Yeah.
One of the things that's changed over the 4 years, you'd have people that stopped in initially more as a curiosity and few regulars, and I have far more regulars now that come back that are looking for things. And that's help. Some of it's helped make it sustainable because now that I know what sells and what
Yep.
those people are coming and looking for,
Yeah.
I'm out
You're looking
shopping for those.
for them, which is really nice because in effect you are now you're shopping for your customers,
yeah.
which they will not get anywhere else.
No, I'm
that's-
in some degree a personal shopper, right?
Yeah. right. Yeah. So I've noticed you have like just stacks and stacks of Stephen King over here.
He still sells.
yeah, of course. Everyone's still buying Stephen King.
Every genre has a couple
Yeah.
that do well for us. Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft and horror are kind of staples, and
Yeah.
sci-fi.
Would you say like genre fiction is one of your main sellers?
No.
No?
Well, the fantasy right now, I think a lot because of Game of Thrones and
Yeah.
the resurgence of interest that's created in fantasy. So I can't get enough. Not only George R. R. Martin, but Robert Jordan, Terry Pratchett, Neil Gaiman.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see. I saw Watchmen. over
Terry.
there.
I know, yeah, just recently. So that's been one of the genres that I guess the genre fiction that's really done well for us.
Nice. So Are we? Yeah,
Do you
Eric.
feel at all that the success of the neighborhood threatens your bookstore at all?
Oh, that's a great question. Like rising rents and that eventually we could be pushed out?
Right.
No, I think we're a long ways away from that. If
You
that's
think so?
if that's a reality, we still have. It's still. I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
But I was going to say that I would prefer if I was not on cameras. It's still easier to get meth than it is a book on Grant Street. Okay, so
That's a great quote.
That
We'll use
unfortunately, not the image we're trying to project out here.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
so I think we're a long ways away from rents rising to the point. It's a funny thing in this neighborhood because the question kind of almost gets at gentrification
Yeah.
and what's happening.
Yep.
And with some of the groups that are committed to, and doing some good work to help the neighborhood, that's a question that comes up a lot, which I think is putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
We have more abandoned houses than we have people being displaced. So if rents don't rise to some degree,
Yeah.
those don't get fixed.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think people know that about the West Side. I think that a lot of the concerns are about these these standard gentrification concerns without
Yeah.
knowing the neighborhood a little better or what's going on here.
Now this is in New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
Where people are been in their homes for maybe generations and are being displaced and much harder there. Here the rent market had bottomed out so much that it needs to bounce back.
Yeah, and would you be willing to talk a little bit about like what gentrification has looked like in this area since you've been here? Is it?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen much of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On my street, I will say this: we do have some renters that are being displaced as more people are buying to own. But what that's meant in our neighborhood is the one family that we thought was great that we were sorry to see go. They moved up to Garner, which is 4 blocks away.
Okay,
I don't,
they're not moving out of the neighborhood.
Oh no, and it hasn't dramatically changed their lifestyle or any of those kinds of concerns. It's an inconvenience to move, and I don't want to pretend it was a good thing for them or they were happy about it.
Right.
And then at the same time, I don't see it being another owner-occupied house on our street is a good thing, and a family being moved 4 blocks
Yeah.
or displaced 4 blocks isn't a social problem.
Right.
Or the least of the West Side social problems.
Yeah. Right. Got it. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Do you feel like your clientele are the community, or are they mostly people from outside of the community?
Oh,
who come
definitely.
to Grand Street?
Definitely the community.
Yeah.
No, I would say the larger community isn't aware we exist. we're community based, somewhat by necessity again, right? I don't have an advertising budget here. We are a small mom and pop. People find out about us through word of mouth. The one exception to that might be because of Yelp.
Oh.
My customer base actually almost now seems to be mostly community members and people in town visiting who care about books and use Yelp.
Wow. That's good. Yeah,
Isn't
that's
funny?
interesting.
Yeah. So we get a lot of people that will stop in, usually on the weekends. That's when I ask I offer everybody a punch card. We do, a little discount card. And when they tell me they're not from out of town, I'll always ask how they found us.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and the answer more and more has been we're in town
Yeah.
visiting and your Yelp reviews are great.
Wow. Well, that's great.
About the past year, that's changed.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else has changed about your place in the community over the last year or so? Because there's been so much change in this neighborhood and things like that. Like what's changed about, I don't know, the way that you relate to your traffic or your community or your clients or your other business owners even.
I think the business association is becoming more active, so that's definitely and becoming more active in a way to try to change. Because I've talked about all the positive things that are happening in the neighborhood, but the neighborhood still has lots of problems. Prostitution and drugs are pretty wide in the open here on Grand Street still, and that's really hard. I think for my wife who's here at the shop a lot of times too. There's nothing worse than being able to walk down the street in the morning and have somebody driving up alongside her, eyeing her up and down to see if she's interested. So we would call it the slow roll, right? So that being I don't know, one of the biggest challenges in the neighborhood. It's really brought a lot of the business is as more business owners are coming to Grant Street. There's more people that are unified and trying to move. I don't want to say end that problem because I don't think it goes away ever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
disrupt and move.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mitigate in whatever way you
Mitigate's
can.
a great word for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Is there anything that like you would like to see? I don't know. You'd like to see happen for this part of Grant Street? Like, what's your vision for like the next couple of years?
I mean, if I could just dictate,
Yeah,
what
you
I
could
would love to
dictate.
see. I would love to see more refugee-owned businesses. I think part of what makes the neighborhood great is the diversity in the neighborhood, and it's it's kind of what makes the neighborhood funky and fun. I would, and I'd like to see more of them invested in enjoying that benefit of the neighborhood improving and being a part, helping to contribute to that too. Yeah, I would say that'd probably be the biggest thing, and it's already happening. The guys that own the cell phone store across the street from us, one's a Somali and one's a Burmese refugee that have gotten together as a partnership and tried to, work collaboratively to bring both of those communities into their business.
Right. And when you have more refugee-owned businesses, you have more refugees being part of the consumer community here too.
Absolutely.
Which is great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a wonderful vision for the future and probably really realistic.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's already happening in small steps.
Yeah.
The West Side Bazaar, I know you guys mentioned you talked to, and I think they're a big part of helping to cultivate that.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Eric? All right. We're good.
We're good.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.